All right, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. As a reminder, please silence your cell phones. For guests and visitors, I still have it in here that it's Jim Farley. My name is Steve Perry. I'm not Jim Farley. I am the club president. And I'd like to welcome you all to the 35th meeting of the 48th year of the Dublin Worthington Rotary. Today's invocation and pledge of allegiance will be offered by Mr. Jared Cass.
Yay, Jerry. Here we are. Standing in for Wynn, who will stand in for me next week because I need to swap with him. So thank you, Wynn, for doing that. And if you'll pray with me. We pray to a higher being today, asking your blessings on our Rotary Club. Help us to serve without judgment, to give without regard to our treasures, but rather about the treasures of others. Help us to remember we are a people of privilege. Give us an understanding that we need to give our love away, as we cannot give it all away, and to receive the love of others as it is a gift from them and a gift to them when we receive it graciously. For these things and the thoughts and prayers on the minds of those assembled, we all say, Amen. Our president's rarely done this, and so it takes a few seconds to come around. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jerry. Welcome. President-elect Teresa Russell, would you please introduce any visiting Rotarians or guests?
I don't think that we'll have any. Do we have a speaker?
Speaker will be introduced for a while.
I think we're good. Welcome back to Connie.
Yeah.
Here we say.
Welcome back. Gretchen survived tax season. She's back with us.
All right, then we'll move right into announcements. You've got your announcements. Come on up. I'll start us off with the Polio Plus. I believe we're up to 18 people who are qualifying for the 125 fund. Would love to get that to at least 35. So if you've not made your $100 contribution to the annual fund and your $25 contribution to Polio Plus, consider doing so. All right. Where's Jim Miller? Other announcements, make your way up here. Another one, May 24th, we're gonna have a club assembly to talk about what do you want out of Rotary? What do you want out of our club? As Teresa takes over in July, it'll be a good time to have those conversations. So I'll be sending some prompt questions maybe later this week, just to get your mind going. Please attend, please participate. The future of our club depends on it. All right, now I'm going to let Jim Miller talk.
Well, in addition to the 24th being the club assembly, we thought it might be good to do the drawing on the same day, and since it's one of our higher attending meetings, the groups are attending. As you all know, we chose this year not to do a $200 per person assignment, but $100. That was because the urban raffle had done well, so we reduced our own commitment to the sponsorship raffle. So the sponsorship raffle will be held on the 24th. You would sort of receive the link. If you have any problems with the link, please contact me. And we are encouraging you, if you want, to go ahead and send or sell or purchase more tickets by going to 75 and below. You simply add your name and the name of whoever the ticket is for. So hopefully someday we'll be able to eliminate the sponsorship raffle, but at least this year, we've been able to reduce it. In some. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Win.
I'm here to invite somebody to lead a group of 4 people to Romania. Early September, we don't have the dates, but now we're looking for a team headed by this leader from our club, has to be a Rotarian. And it's new generation service exchange, NGSE. So you're gonna hear in the next couple of weeks, until we find a candidate or two. The thing it will be is that there are 6 clubs that are trying to raise a leader. And so on May 21st or so, we'll have that competition or that finding our leader. I invite you all to think about going to Romania. Romania is a fantastic country to go to. We had some people here 4 or 5 years ago. They were an outstanding group, entertaining. And Dracula's Castle is on the menu as well as. So please get with me if you have an interest in fighting and questioning it. Thank you.
Thank you, Win. Mr. Farmer.
I sent an email around to everybody. We have a Rotary Friendship Group visiting from Morocco this Sunday from 12 to noon at my house, or from 12 to 2 at my house. You're all invited. I'm repeating the invitation since I know many of you don't read your emails anymore. But please come if you can. If you can't come, let me know sometime today via email so we know how many to plan for lunch. Thank you.
Thank you. Final reminder I have is, if you have any pictures or news that you want to put in the newsletter, please send those to pr@worthingtonrotary.org. Also, please include a few sentences so that Chrissy and myself know what pictures we want. All right, now I think we're ready for our start. Mr. Ken Carey.
Need a pot carrier, volunteer. A few of you did applaud as I walked up here. If you did not, throw them a dollar. Thank you, sir. Happy dollars. Start with that. Who's got something they're happy about? Thank you.
I have $1 that I'm happy that my buddy Colleen is back, and I went to meet her last week, so welcome back. And $4, I've been traveling around the district for kid cancer, and that's been very well received. I've got a few more months left to do that, but I want $4 to show appreciation to our Rotary Club for being so generous again this year. Bless your heart.
Good work. Thank you. Pete.
Next Tuesday, my roommate gets back. Sarasota. I'm going to be happy.
Can we assume you're talking about your wife?
Yeah. Maybe you sold her house, Pete. On that too.
Anybody else? Any other happy buds? George?
I have a new guest I'd like to introduce,
Please do.
Chandra Parnazzi.
Welcome.
Thank you. He's a new guest, and he's managing a hotel at, the name of it is Norwood Inn. I got to know him the last couple of weeks, and he's been in England, and now he's in the United States.
Glad to have you. Yes, sir.
So I'm happy the Moroccans are coming because it gave me an excuse to clean up my house.
It's about time. Anybody else? Happy bucks? None. Easy day. How many golfers do we have in the room? Put your hands up. How many golfers do we have in the room who are not signed up to play in the Rotary outing on the 26th?
Who will sign up?
Who are not yet signed up? If that's you, throw in $1. You're welcome, Mike Moulton. Friday is a big day. What is it? Cinco de Mayo. This is on behalf of everybody in the room, all right? What does Cinco de Mayo commemorate? And I'll give you one clue. It's not about the invention of tequila. Yes, sir.
Defeat of the French in Mexico.
That wasn't specific enough. It commemorates the anniversary of Mexico's victory over the Second French Empire at the Battle of Puebla in 1862. You were in the right direction, but I'm here to raise money. Everybody's throwing $1. All right, what's Saturday? Big day Saturday. What's going on? It is the Run for the Roses, Derby Day. Last question on behalf of the entire room. First of all, how many in this room have never been to the Kentucky Derby? I better not see your hand, George, for crying out loud. You're a veterinarian. Never been there throwing a buck. Keep in mind, there's a $3 maximum. Last question. From 1973 to 1978. Those were the formative years for many of us. We had 3 Triple Crown winners. Who can name all 3? To save the room $1. All 3. There are 3 Triple Crown winners, 73 to 78. Can anybody name all 3 to save your peers $1?
Secretary of Manowar,
Secretary is the first one and still has the record for that race.
Manowar.
No, I would go time ago. Anybody?
Woman of War.
Get your dollars out. Secretariat, 1973. Seattle Slough, 1977. Affirm, 1978. Have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, through this game, I think we're ready for our program. John, we come on and introduce our speaker today.
Thanks, Steve. I'm sure all of us have faced adversity in our lives. And our speaker today, Maggie Rusnick, will discuss the importance of resiliency when faced with adversity. She'll cover what resiliency is, why it's important to all of us, and especially older adults, and how to develop it to face life's challenges. Maggie is a community sports specialist with Centero's older adult program. The program emphasizes independent living and functioning and linkage with community resources. Maggie has more than 10 years of experience in education administration. She earned a master's degree in occupational therapy from Ohio State University. The mission of Centero is to advocate and to support the health and well-being of individuals and families and communities. By providing professional, compassionate behavioral health and social services that adapt to the changing needs of the community. You may remember Centero as our club, thanks to Peggy Murgatroyd, has partnered with the organization to identify families in Dublin for our Adopt a Family project at Christmas time. So you're welcome, please welcome Maggie.
I promise I'm standing up. Some of you can't see me. I'm gonna move it over and move it like this. I hope everyone can still see me. Am I feeling the right?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'll do that. I'm Maggie Rusnack, and thank John, because he just shortened this presentation by 2 slides. Because there I am, but we've already discussed, well, I've actually gotten a promotion since I got this gig. I'm now the caregiver specialist at Centero. I run a caregiver program, and it's similar. I connect people, caregivers, to resources. And I was the full-time caregiver for my grandmother, and that is definitely a role that takes some resiliency. Centero, again, we're a health and wellness organization. We provide counseling, but we also provide the services. There's some information on the tables about us. They are grant funded, so they are free to anybody in Franklin County who is 60 or older. And you do not have to have a mental health issue in order to partake in our program. So if you know somebody, or if you want to more information, I'll be around afterwards, or there's a phone number on the bottom, you can contact us. So, all righty, onward. So have you ever heard, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade? That which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And this too shall pass, just like this presentation eventually. Hopefully, it won't be too bad. But we've all heard these, what should we call them? Cliches, platitudes. They're supposed to make us feel better in times of trouble. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they're kind of like, that's it. You know, that's all you're going to give me at this point. Like, so that's what this presentation is about. It's about creating tools and recognizing in ourselves the ways that we can overcome adversity. So today's agenda: what is resiliency? Why is resiliency important? How can we develop resiliency in ourselves? And a couple of resiliency exercises. Yes, there is homework, so prepare for that. What is resiliency? So there is a very long American Psychological Association definition right here. I'm just going to pull out a couple of the pieces of it. It's about successfully adapting to difficult life experiences with flexibility. So that's basically what resiliency is. It's overcoming things by being flexible. This is a bit easier, a definition, not quite so wordy. So it's basically bouncing back, resiliency, the ability to bounce back after something happens in your life. And I'm sure we've both been, both of those smiley faces or not so smiley faces up there. There have been times of trouble and then times when we finally get through. This is a more pragmatic definition of what resiliency is. And it's the ability to accept the harsh reality. So instead of looking at something subjectively and how it affects you and, oh, this is horrible, trying to take that step back and realizing what is the objective situation I'm in. Very difficult when you're embroiled in something that's pretty emotional, but trying to look at something a little bit more objectively. Find meaning in adversity. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but trying to build a bridge from the situation you have in the present to something better in the future. And then continually improvise. So life hands you lemons. What do? You juggle them, you toss them at somebody, or do you try to make the lemonade? That was so cleverly pointed out in the beginning. So why is resiliency important? Good question, Maggie, as I try to on my page. Okay. Resiliency correlates positively with the following items. So there's all these benefits: higher quality of life, greater happiness, lower depression. And that has come about as people have studied resiliency across the lifespan. So it's resiliency research started in the 1970s by looking at veterans who had come back from Vietnam and trying to ascertain why were some veterans able to reintegrate into life a lot better than some other veterans. What did they have? What qualities did they have that put them at lower risk of suicide and PTSD? So, but then from there, people started saying, oh, resiliency can apply across the lifespan. So started looking at kids, started looking at older adults, and they found that people who are quote unquote resilient, who can bounce back, tend to also benefit from these qualities. So this is a quote from a medical doctor, Maureen Nash. And it says, one of the most resilient groups of people is older adults. They have a lifetime of overcoming challenging and difficult situations, and the only way to get through that is by being resilient. So anyone in here over 50, give yourself a big pat on the back. We did
That's
it.
only about, it's only about three.
Yeah, I see, I know. It might not be my crowd, right? So again, why is resiliency important? So a National Institute of Health study looked at again, the correlation between quality of life and resiliency. And they studied adults aged 68 to 82 living in the community. And they found that these adults were dealing with adversity like functional limitations, stress, decreased health, negative life events. So, the basic stuff that we all go through as we live our lives. So, divorce, bankruptcy, illness, loss of a loved one, all these kinds of learning moments in our lives. And the result was of increased resilience where these people had good quality relationships. They had more integration into the community, and they had adaptive coping styles. Well, I'm looking out at all of you, and you guys already hit 2 out of the 3 at least, because I can see you have good quality relationships, even if some of you had to pay for that. But hey, you get what you pay for, no problem. And then more integration into the community. You're here, you came out, you chose to be involved rather than sitting at home and watching TV or something. So the adaptive coping styles, that's things like being solution driven, learning from past events so as not to repeat the future or repeat history in the future. And teaching yourself to live with a problem, that's something too. Sometimes you can't get over a cancer diagnosis, but what do you do with that information? Do you let it, make you shrink and not come out and not enjoy life anymore? Or do you say, okay, this is part of me, it's not all of me, I'm going to continue forward? Another study. So this was a study of 1,006 older adults, and it was a study between the young old, which are people 50 to 74, and then the old, that's not insulting at all. Those are people 75 to 99. And then once you get to be 100, you are considered the oldest old. So yes, that's when you win the prize. But they were looking at people also living in the community, but some of these people had really big problems in their lives. They were dealing with those limited mobility, decreased health, increased stress, having to downsize, having to move, having loved ones pass away, having financial trouble. But what they found was the older old, and most respondents were aged 80 to 89. They found that contrary to our hypothesis, older age was associated with higher self-ratings of successful aging, despite worse physical and cognitive functioning. So these people were dealing with a whole lot of problems in their lives, but they still thought that their lives were pretty great. And that's in comparison to the younger folks, the people who are 50 to 74. And so the researchers, and this was out of the University of California at San Diego, the researchers attributed that to the fact that older adults tend to be more adaptive. Like that quote said, you have to be adaptive, you have to accommodate, you have to be flexible. So the older old folks tended to use those qualities a lot more. They said, okay, this is it. This is the hand life's dealt me at the moment. I'm gonna make the most of it. Rather than feeling like, oh crap, this is not what I want, and fighting against it, which I guess is what some of the younger folks did. So again, why is resiliency important? Because it reduces a lot of the health risks that we associate with older age, increases your mortality risk. No, decreases it. Oh, good. God, that was bad. Decreases the mortality risk. You tend to live longer if you're resilient. And you have a better self-perception of aging successfully, which is what that study that I just talked about. And I tend to think, so I'm not a researcher and I don't play one on TV, but what I think why resiliency is important is that it's a change of perception. And through that change of perception, you get to see a different way that the world is. So it's not being Pollyanna all the time and being, oh, everything is perfect, everything is half full and I'm not going to have any trouble at all. But it's seeing, when you see that half empty glass, what can I do to fill it up? Or how can I be satisfied with it being half full? And this is something I've been working on for quite a while in my own life. It's just trying to change my perception, that constant talk in my head about, oh, this stinks, or I don't want to deal with this, to, hey, that's not too bad. Like, go talk to the Rotary Club. Oh, no, I don't want to, but hey, it could be fun. And, so far I got a taco out of it, so great. All right, so why is resiliency important? Have I convinced you yet with all that data and good research? Hopefully. Because we are moving on to how can we develop resiliency in ourselves. We know what resiliency is, we know why it's important, but is it a trait that's common to everybody, or is it just something that we luck out? We had a good upbringing, our parents cuddled us more, we had a good life, or is it something that we can develop in ourselves? The good news is that resiliency can be learned. And I'm going to give you a few ways in order to do that. So we're getting to the crux of it all. So how can we develop resiliency? Develop self-awareness. Think about times when you had to face challenges. How did you respond to them? Did you freak out? Did you panic? Did you withdraw? Did you blame somebody else? How could you change that in the future? So understanding how we deal with stress is a really important way to develop that self-awareness when the crap hits the fan, should I say? Build self-regulation skills. So this is all about emotion and how we react to things. There is a field of study in child development. It's called conscious discipline. And it's about including the child in the process of when something goes wrong, rather than just, trying to immediately try and fix it, or kind of just ignore the problem by saying, you go over there, you go over there. So it's trying to kind of include the child so that they learn those critical thinking skills. And this is one of the main, what do you call that? Tenets, tools of conscious discipline. So basically, if something happens to you, like say you have road rage, you're leaving this wonderful luncheon today and you get behind an idiot. Never happens, right? Never happens. But you get behind an idiot on the road, hopefully it won't be me. But and you get triggered, that word triggered. And you say, I am angry at this person in front of me. So the idea is to take that I am angry and turn it into something worthwhile and productive, so that you're just not consumed with anger. So The next step is I calm. So how can I calm that anger? Do I want to just, stay in that state of angriness, or do I want to turn it from taking a deep breath? I'm okay, nothing really bad happened. They just cut me off. It's okay. I'm not, dead yet. And then that takes you to I feel. So no longer I am angry, which is an identity thing. I am angry, to I feel anger. That's kind of a different statement. It's helping to de-escalate the situation. And then you get to I choose. So I choose what? I choose to remain angry. That's a choice. Or I choose to let it go, which takes you, if that is your choice, to letting it go, to I solve. So if this were to happen in the future, somebody cut you off in traffic, that'll never happen again. But if this were to happen in the future, how would you solve it? Would you maybe leave a little bit more space between you and the person in front of you? What are some ideas that you could have so that this wouldn't happen again? Maybe take the bus. The idea is that feelings are good, but they don't need to overwhelm us. And we are in charge of our feelings. So more ideas about how to develop resiliency. Learn coping skills. Coping skills obviously are really important to help us through the difficult times. There are things that we can sort of rely on in order to help calm us down, help make us feel better, soothe us. So some of those are, there's journaling, exercise. This guy is pretty buff, so he must go through a whole lot of stuff to be that resilient. Go for a walk in nature. That's actually the Olentangy Trail, and that's very close by. We're really lucky to have that available to us. And socialize. Again, you guys are here, you're doing it, you're socializing. And yeah, you all look just as happy in that picture. They're all standing there, with that great big smile on their face. So that's what I see when I look out. Lots of happy folks. So coping skills. Another way to develop resiliency is to increase optimism. Again, this is not optimism as far as Pollyanna. It's not, everything is bright and sunny and I never get upset. It's just trying to feel more in control of outcomes. So to build optimism, you have to focus on what you can do. And this says how I feel right now. And do people know who that is? It's hard to see, but that's Rocky. He just got up on top of the steps and he's all excited. Now, Rocky is a good example of problem solving. He wanted to fight Apollo Creed. He had to get himself into shape. He had to keep plugging away at it until he got and met his goal. But I think that was in Rocky too. So, spoiler alert. All right. Strengthen connections. Again, here you all are. You're building those connections with each other, whether you're new friends or old friends. And it's about bolstering existing connections and making new ones. So how do you do that outside of clubs like this? Well, obviously, you can volunteer. There are groups online. I'll put in a little plug for me. I run 2 discussion groups, one at the Griswold Center in Worthington. That's every third Thursday, where we invite people to come and talk about different topics. This one month is about all the different learning programs that are available through the different universities. So like Program 60 and Columbus State and so on. So Griswold Center, if you haven't been there, it's a great place to be, good resource. And knowing your strengths. So you feel more capable when you feel more confident. And the way to feel more confident sometimes is to feel prepared. But if you think about a job interview, you go into a job interview and you're very prepared. You have all your questions written down. You're good to go. You looked over your resume. You've gotten rid of all the lies or the exaggerations. So you're ready to really talk to somebody about who you are. And for some people, that is a really great way to feel confident and to feel prepared. Other people might feel more prepared by improvising, by just kind of going with the flow. So it's understanding who you are and what works best. Some people, if they had that list of questions, that would overwhelm them. So developing resiliency, it's all about keeping practice. It's like anything we do in life. It's not something we're born knowing. We have to keep going at it. So this says, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect, right? So, and we're not. Resilience is not a permanent state. Like I said, people are not born knowing how to bounce back from bad situations. They have to keep at it. And I find this to be very, very encouraging because I come from a family of women who did not bounce back from situations, who tended to take things on their shoulders, lots of self-blame and lots of withdrawal. And they thought they were the problem to everything. And I thought, oh gosh, that's how I'm gonna be. And I'm gonna, all these wonderful benefits. I thought, oh, I'm just gonna tank. But I'm pushing myself by trying to incorporate some of these things. So it's about evolving. It's about continuing to grow. It's about learning what works for you and to keep working at it to develop your resilience. So this says, resilient people do experience stress, setbacks, and difficult emotions, but they tap into their strengths and seek help from support systems to overcome challenges and work through problems. So I started this off with some cliches, the lemonade and this too shall pass. So here's some new quotes to bolster resiliency. This guy, Winston Churchill, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And I would say he knew a thing or two about resilience. And not only World War II did he have to go through, but he was also a POW who escaped from during the Second Boer War in South Africa around the turn of last century. So yeah, the guy had been through some stuff. And then this second one is, it's your reaction to adversity, not adversity itself, that determines how your life story will develop. This guy's name is Dieter F. Uchtdorf, and he is a German businessman and a religious leader. And I just like that, the reaction to adversity, not the adversity itself. So, I stubbed my toe. It's not the chair's fault that I walked into. It was me not paying attention. And so then I got upset and I kicked the chair again, and then I hurt myself some more. That's kind of, not learning from history, but there are better ways to do it. Not that that's ever happened to me. So resilience exercises, this is where the homework comes in. You didn't think it's going to be just easy. I was going to come up here and say, oh, do this, this, and this, and now you're resilient. There are some things that, some introspection, looking inside ourselves, trying to come up with plans to make ourselves more resilient. So there are some sheets on the table, 2 different exercises. The first one's called doors closed, doors open. And basically, this is about when a door closes, what do I do? Do I just stand there and stare at it and hope it'll open up again? Do I just slink off and go back to wherever I came from and never try to open any door again? Or do I learn from that experience, try and open another door and see what comes of that? So again, I'm not going to ask people to do these right now, but you're welcome to take these home with you if you're so inclined. But it's about thinking about a time in your life when someone rejected you or you missed out on something important. You write down your experience, and then what was the new door that opened? And then on the back is some reflection questions. And the final one is, think of the people that helped you when the door closed and the door opened, And then how can you help people in the future? And I feel like Rotarians are all people who really want to help. That's something that's really intrinsic to you, that you want to be out there helping others. So by learning how to help yourself, you can better help others. And just to give you an example from my own life. So I was a caregiver for my grandmother. I went back to school to become an occupational therapist because I loved working with older adults. And plugged through, was working full-time, taking classes at night, finally got my degree. And I had 3 orthopedic surgeries in 4 years. I had knee surgery, and then I ruptured my Achilles tendon. And then I had a back issue where I had to have a spinal fusion. And if any of you know occupational therapists or physical therapists, we have to do a lot of lifting and helping people getting in and out of bed, walking down hallways, getting on and off toilets, things like that. And all of a sudden, I wasn't able to do what I just spent, what was it, like 6 years getting myself ready to do. So that was a big door shutting in my face. And for a little bit, I was kind of, down, and I just sat there staring at that closed door, hoping someday I could open it up again. But what I started to do then was realize, okay, I have this knowledge now. I've studied occupational therapy. I know the population I want to work with. How else can I be of use in the world? And here's a funny story. The door opened a crack and closed again on this job. So a few years ago, I applied for this job, and I got the loveliest rejection letter. She said, "Oh, you're fantastic, you're great, but we need an MSW in this role, not an OT." And I thought, why? Oh, I'm good. But okay, so that door closed. So then I thought a few years ago, well, actually last year, I started looking again. And I thought, well, I got such a nice rejection letter from Centero. I'm going to try them again. And they had the same job open. So I applied this time, and this time they accepted me. They, thanked the economy and the workforce shortage. Suddenly they didn't have quite as many MSWs. And they're like, all right, you're good enough. Come on in. And here I am. And I'm working in a capacity that I'm really excited about. Like I said, I was caregiver for my grandmother, and now I'm helping other caregivers to learn the things that I didn't know. So yeah, there's an example of a door opening and closing, or closing and opening. So that's the first exercise. The second one is called the 4 S's, and it's building a resilience plan. So what you do is you look at the 4 S's, which are support, strategies, sagacity, and solutions. So supports, the idea of this exercise is to think about a time when you had a setback, and to think who supported you during that time. Was it your partner? Was it your friend? Was it some random guy you met in the airport? And then strategies, what kept you going? What kept you moving through the problem? What were some things? Did you, learn a new skill? Did you meditate? Did you go out and network with people, depending on what it was? Did you actually do your physical therapy exercises if you got injured? Sagacity are words of wisdom. So what are some words of wisdom that got you through whatever it was that happened? Those could be, a Bible quote. They could be something that a friend said to you once. Could be a lyric of a song, but just things that helped. And then finally, solutions. What were some of the things that you did in the end to change that situation into something more positive? So the idea here is on the back, there is a like a 2x2, and you're supposed to put down those 4 S's into there, and then that kind of gives you something to look at if you do go through another hard time. You can say, hey, last time I talked to my mom, and she actually helped for this situation, maybe I could give her another shot, or listen to this podcast, and that really helped, so. So those are the resilience exercises. Feel free to take them home with you. I didn't want to leave everybody without something that you could kind of look at concretely. So what is resiliency? Resiliency is when you're faced with a challenge. Like this guy, he's looking at a bunch of hurdles, and he's wearing a business suit, so he's not prepared to run over those hurdles. So the green arrow is basically all these things that we talked about, developing self-awareness and coping skills, and keep practicing all these things that you're building within you. And then through that, you can find an outcome to get you through whatever life throws at you. So he's jumping over 3 hurdles at a time. Woo, that guy's good. He must have really listened to what I talked about. All right, B plus. So, okay, again, and finally, resilience is not a trait that people either have or do not have. It involves behaviors, thoughts, and actions that can be learned and developed in anyone. And now it's time for questions, and thank you for your time.
Questions? So for the 50 to 75-year-olds who didn't do so well, I mean, some of we hear a lot about suicide and that sort of thing, and or drinking yourself to death. Is that what happened to those guys?
So he's asking about the 50 to 74-year-olds who didn't do so well on the self-perceived successful aging, and wondered if they were drinking themselves to death or just giving up. And the idea between those two cohorts was there's this theory of control, and one is external control and one is internal control. So the external control, and that's the one that these younger folks turned to more often, was trying to change what was going on in their environment. Whereas the internal control, which is what the older group did, was they were looking inside and saying, okay, how can I accommodate or adapt to this situation? So it wasn't like they were giving up, but they were looking in the wrong direction, maybe, to be resilient.
Well, is the framework for resiliency, why can't that apply to the young, real young, and not the young old and all that? Why couldn't it, doesn't apply to everyone, and wouldn't be a good idea for everyone to start developing those skills, those coping skills?
Oh, absolutely. So the question was, what about young people and young people and the youngest young? So way back here, I had this, the thing with the conscious discipline. So that are skills that are being taught to younger people, starting in preschool, to get kids thinking about how to be resilient, how not to just, fall down on the floor and have a tantrum, but actually learn how to move past it. Johnny stole my toy. Okay, well, how are you gonna deal with that in the future? Maybe Johnny can have it for a minute and then he has to give it back. I don't know, Johnny's kind of a jerk, but yeah, so they are, they are working with kids. I have more of a focus on the older adults, so that's what this was focused on.
So I've seen in some of my extended family that as they age, they get a lot of anxiety that, kind of turned into some of this lack of resiliency. And how do you have any resources to kind of stop anxiety from escalating without putting everybody on Xanax?
Yeah, that's a real worry. I think we jump very quickly in this culture to prescribing a pill and expecting a pill to fix everything. Rather than, that's one reason I have these handouts, is we have to put the work in. Sometimes it's harder to convince people to put that work in if they're not ready. But again, coping skills. These are really important. Finding something to do that's going to alleviate that anxiety. they've done lots and lots of research on exercise and anxiety and depression and how that we're really actually sometimes work better than an antidepressant for some people because it makes changes in the brain by the releases of dopamine. So trying to figure out what works for them to decrease it. And then what was something? I'm trying to think now. I had another thought about, was it back here? I don't know.
What about the elderly then? I mean, so. You work with them, I think, at Griswold and others, what? So exercise, even for them, is very helpful, and is that what you would suggest they do then from a COVID perspective to relieve their anxiety?
So he's asking about elderly people, is exercise sufficient to help them? Is that something I would recommend? Yes, I always recommend exercise even to myself, and I don't always necessarily follow that, but I do recommend it. But it's more about finding what works for you. Some people, they don't exercise, they don't like classes, they don't want to get sweaty in front of other people, or they don't have the physical ability to do that. So what's another way that they can cope with anxiety? There is a really great technique called the 5-4-3-2-1 that works up really well with anxiety. And it's a grounding technique. When someone feels that they are being overcome with anxious feelings, you do 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Or most people don't taste anything because it's been a while since they've eaten. So one positive feeling or memory or something. And what that does is it grounds you in the moment. And that's really a way to combat anxiety, because anxiety is all about what if, oh my gosh, and it's all about future and worry and focusing on that. So if you can ground yourself in the present and be mindful of the present, that's why that 5-4-3-2-1 is a really quick, easy way to ground yourself back in the now.
The recent study from Oxford University to control anxiety says reading book. How effective is that?
So a study from Oxford says that reading a book is good at controlling anxiety. I think, again, that depends on who you are, because there are some people who they don't like to read. And if you make them read something, that's going to increase their anxiety. I'm not familiar with the study, so I don't know what book they had you read, if it was just reading for pleasure. Do you know?
Well, it was more into fiction. That's what most of when they did the survey, and the common age group which was facing anxiety was between 38 to 74. And they were constantly going ahead and giving them articles from various fictional books. And that literally helped them to go ahead and calm down and control the anxiety.
So he's saying that reading fiction would help control anxiety. And the only thing I can think of is why that would work is it's a distraction. So you tend to get into these circular thoughts, and it distracts you. I know I'm a big reader because it distracts me. I can go off into my magic kingdom of whatever book I'm reading and really enjoy myself for a while, and the outside world moves away. So did you have a question?
Yeah, how do you get into introducing, let's say, my mother or somebody, they're very anxious, very depressed? How do you get them into contact with you? Is there a workshop or some kind of an opening thing that they can at least go to and get a little bit of joy juice or whatever it is?
Well, again, I recommend the Griswold Center, either my group or something else there. Finding a buddy that they can go with to something like that can help them, because then they'll feel more comfortable. If they would really like to take part in our programs, we do have an intensive one-on-one. It's kind of a case management program where we work intensely with one person to get them connected to things that will help them. And if one of the things is socialization, to help with anxiety, then we will try to help them with that.
Yeah, I feel that, the situations that I'm thinking of, getting that first step is the big thing. Once you get going, there are opportunities and like that, but, oh, I'm not needing any counseling or anything like that. How do you, would you come out to the apartment or place if that person, would at least invite you in for a meeting?
Well, for the program that I just talked about, yes, we meet people in the community. So we will go to their home or meet them wherever they're most comfortable, like at a Panera or something. So we will meet with that person and discuss what they need in particular. But if you can't even get them to that point, I mean, I suggest accompanying them to some place. Because like I said, if you have somebody going with you, it's a lot less intimidating. So just by saying, okay, well, why don't we try this, just see if it works. It's an idea.
So we are running short on time, so.
I want to thank you for sharing your personal story about and how you cope and were resilient and makes it more concrete and I think it inspires us to try the same thing.
Well, you're welcome and thank you for your time.
All right. Trying to make this speedy. We have a raffle. How much is in it, Gordon?
Good job. $28.
$28?
And the last four numbers are 9, 4, 8. Oh, excuse me. Wrong. We start again. 9, 4, 6, 0.
Sounds good. How much in the ace of spades?
It's a chance for the big one. 9, 4, 6, 3.
9, 4, 6, 3. How much is in there, Gordon?
For the big one.
$82. Come on up.
Is this?
Yeah, Jerry won it last week. He kept all the money.
We keep blaming Jerry.
2 of clubs, no good. Thanks for playing. All right, everybody, if you'll join me in the recitation of the 4-way test of the things we think, say, and do first.
Is it
The truth. Is it fair to all concerned?
And forward.
All concerned.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Please remember to turn your cell phone back on and put your badges back in the box. We are adjourned.
Yes.